You know the name and you've played his game. Today we're going to talk about how to play our favorite edgelord turned hitman, Reaper. After undergoing daring experiments regarding his own biology, Reaper is out for blood and you're going to learn today how to spill it. Whether you're a beginner or advanced player, this video should help you understand and master this character. My goal by the end of this video is to help you become an absolute monster with the character with a deep understanding of how he works in Season 2 of Overwatch. The first thing we're going to talk about are his weapons, the Hellfire shotguns. These weapons output ridiculous damage. I don't even think some of you realize how powerful they actually are when played correctly. To put this into perspective for you, a single shot to the body deals 120 damage, whereas a single headshot does 240 damage. This is assuming you're at point blank range, of course. The farther away you are from your target, the less damage you'll do. In other words, Reaper needs to be close to be a reasonable threat to the enemy. When you do get close enough to the enemy dealing damage, his passive ability, the Reaping, applies to all damage output, healing you for a fraction of the damage dealt. In other words, lifesteal. Each shot will heal you for a fraction of your health based on the damage dealt, so you can continue barrel stuffing the enemy while healing yourself. This works pretty well against tanks. My biggest tip for using these weapons is to tap your primary fire towards your target instead of holding it down. If you don't understand what I mean, let me restate. Do not hold down your primary fire button when shooting the enemy. Tap it. When you tap your primary fire with these weapons, your shots are going to be more accurate, thus doing more damage. Your targets are constantly moving and trying to avoid you. Make your shots more calculated and absolute, and I guarantee you'll be eliminating more people and doing more damage. Once you find yourself into trouble, his Wraithform ability allows Reaper to become invulnerable for a brief duration, granting him a speed boost and reloading his shotguns upon exiting Wraithform. This ability can also be cancelled early should you decide to. I like to use this ability a few different ways, but primarily you want to never use it to engage unless you're going in for a coordinated play. Save this ability as your escape tool. I will talk more about how to properly use Wraithform aggressively later in the video when we talk about presence and positioning. Shadow Step will be his primary movement ability that will help him cross large distances very quickly, enabling flank potential, peel back to the team, or easy access to higher ground. Upon activation, Reaper will teleport to the target location indicated by his smoke visual indicator. You can teleport in midair too, if you didn't know this. Could very well save your life from a bad situation. When you teleport with this ability, adjust your camera beforehand so that by the time you teleport, you're already facing the intended direction to save yourself time. His ultimate ability, Death Blossom, is a cyclone of death capable of wiping out an entire team in the right situation. Upon activation, Reaper bursts into a flurry of shotgun shells, flying in every direction, unleashing a large amount of damage from his radius. The element of surprise is key to a good Death Blossom, but it's also good to clean up a fight full of low HP enemies around a payload. Combo Death Blossom with abilities such as Nano Boost or Kitsune Rush, and this will allow your team to pull even more value from your Death Blossom. Now that we've reviewed his kit, let's talk about some fun ways you can abuse his abilities to carry your team to victory. First thing I'm going to talk about here is presence. I need you to understand that your mere existence is a threat to the enemy and something they must stay on the lookout for. If you position yourself close enough to the enemy using cover in a way where the risk on them jumping on you is greater than them staying where they are and holding their position, you can take advantage of this and push them back with positioning alone, as long as you have your Wraithform and your team to take space. So even without getting any eliminations, you can push the enemy back with your mere existence. Using your Shadow Step ability to teleport to locations will put you in the right position in order to do this. This is what presence is, and the more you understand and master this skill, will you unlock a whole other level of play in your Reaper games. Playing as a brawler, you want to be actively in combat, usually by your tank most of the time. Putting pressure on the enemy tank when feasible will push them back, but don't let this distract you from taking out more vulnerable targets. Dealing heavy damage to their tank is gonna force the enemy supports to pour resources into their tank, which is going to create opportunities for your teammates to take out the enemy DPS, find an opening on the supports, or push the enemy team back. Keep an eye on your supports too. Don't get too tunneled on the front line. Most flankers aren't going to expect you to be paying attention to your support. Sometimes peeling back with Shadow Step will help you find that opportunity to take them out. Next, let's talk about flanking. Approach from an angle that an enemy isn't going to expect, and make sure your first shot counts if you have the element of surprise. Firing prematurely and missing is enough time for them to react and outplay you. Make that first shot count. Think back to the beginning of this video when I talked about how much damage each of his Hellfire rounds deal to the enemy. If you're going for a flank with the purpose to Death Blossom, this still counts. Getting a quick shot off on a target you really want eliminated before casting Death Blossom is gonna make your ultimate even more effective and not give that target time to react. Even if you don't get a kill on the flank, doing enough damage and regrouping with your team using Wraith Form is gonna keep your team pushing up and rolling that objective. Now, I want to talk more about the perfect Death Blossom. There are a few things you want to look out for before popping this ult, and if you don't look out for these things, you're going to be taking the risk to completely waste your ultimate. D.Va, Zenyatta, Lucio, and Sigma are going to be the main heroes that you want to be on the lookout for before popping Death Blossom. Here's why. For D.Va, you want to make sure that she's out of her mech or far away from her team before popping your ult, because otherwise, she's going to use Defense Matrix to completely shut down your ability. The same logic applies to Zenyatta. Wait for him to pop his ultimate, and when you know he doesn't have it, then you can look for a good Death Blossom. If he's holding on to it, and you either need to bait it out or eliminate him for your Death Blossom to flourish. For Lucio, same thing as Zenyatta. Wait for him to use his ultimate, bait it out, or eliminate him before using it. Then Sigma. For him, just wait for him to use his Kinetic Grasp ability, as it's very similar to D.Va's Defense Matrix and he can eat up your ultimate. Furthermore, make sure you're letting your team know that you plan on using Death Blossom for the upcoming fight and try to combo with one of your teammates to win the play. The best Death Blossoms are the ones that are timed and calculated with your team so that its maximum value can be used. So, we've talked about Reaper's abilities and how to use them. Now we're going to talk about when to play Reaper. When the enemy tank becomes a problem and often finds themselves close to your team and they don't have many ranged heroes to deal with you, it might be time to switch to Reaper. If they want to fight close, you're going to have to do it to them. Tanks like Winston, Junker Queen, Reinhardt, and Roadhog are often enemies that can get real comfortable up close to your team. Be sure to punish them for that. Be wary though, because enemies that can damage you from range, you'll quickly find more of a challenge from, such as Widowmaker, Ashe, Pharah, or Sojourn. These are going to be some of your counters. There's not much you can do against them other than outplay them. When I'm against heroes like Pharah or Widowmaker though, I know they like to play around high ground, so I position myself close by where I predict they'll be. Of course, if you continue to get outplayed by these heroes, you and your team are better with you switching to a hero more viable. Reaper is our Scourge Lord, and he's here to send them back to the spawn room. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please do me a solid and like and subscribe. If you want to continue the discussion, be sure to follow me on Twitch to chat with me live or join up in my Discord where we can chat there. Link down in the description. Let's make a community, bro. What video are you looking for next? Comment below. Take it easy and peace out.